Bonnie and Clyde's 1934 Ford Deluxe wasn't just a getaway car. This tan sedan became America's most infamous automobile after that fatal Louisiana ambush in May 1934. The car absorbed 167 bullets in 12 seconds, but its story didn't end on that country road. But why did the car's original owner never get it back, despite being innocent? How did a death scene vehicle become a profitable touring attraction within days? And what's the truth behind the rumor that pieces of the car were stolen by souvenir hunters at the ambush site? These are 20 weird facts about Bonnie and Clyde's death car that will blow your mind. Number 20. The car was stolen just 3 weeks before the ambush. Bonnie and Clyde didn't own the 1934 Ford Deluxe. They stole it from a woman named Ruth Warren in Topeka, Kansas, on April 29, 1934. Ruth had parked her brand new car outside a grocery store for less than 10 minutes. When she came out with her shopping, the Ford was gone. She immediately reported the theft to police, providing the registration and serial number. The Topeka Police Department added it to their stolen vehicle list and notified neighboring jurisdictions. But tracking stolen cars across state lines in 1934 was nearly impossible without modern communication systems. Ruth Warren had no idea her car would become the most famous automobile in America within weeks. She'd purchased the Ford Deluxe just 6 weeks earlier, making payments of $38 monthly. The car cost $785 new, a substantial sum during the Depression. Ruth had saved for 2 years to afford it, viewing it as a symbol of financial stability and independence. When she learned her stolen car had been involved in the infamous ambush, she expected police to return it after the investigation concluded. Instead, Louisiana authorities seized the vehicle as evidence in a criminal case. Ruth hired a lawyer and fought for 3 years to reclaim her property. The courts ruled that because the car had been used in the commission of numerous federal crimes, it could be held indefinitely. Ruth never received her car back, never recovered financially from the loss, and died in 1976, having never received compensation for the theft that changed her life forever. Number 19. The ambush lasted only 12 seconds. The legendary ambush that ended Bonnie and Clyde's crime spree lasted approximately 12 seconds from first shot to last. Law enforcement officers had positioned themselves in bushes along Highway 154 near Siles, Louisiana, creating an L-shaped ambush formation. The posse consisted of 6 lawmen: Frank Hamer, Manny Galt, Bob Alcorn, Ted Hinton, Prentice Oakley, and Henderson Jordan. They'd been waiting since midnight, enduring mosquitoes and humidity in the pre-dawn darkness. When Clyde Barrow drove into the kill zone around 9:15 a.m., the officers unleashed a devastating barrage. Prentice Oakley fired first, hitting Clyde in the head with a Browning automatic rifle round, killing him instantly. The Ford veered into a ditch as Clyde's foot stayed on the accelerator. The remaining officers opened fire with rifles, shotguns, and pistols, pouring rounds into the vehicle from multiple angles. Bonnie Parker likely died within the first 3 seconds, struck by bullets from at least 4 different weapons simultaneously. But the officers didn't stop firing. They'd seen Bonnie and Clyde escape ambushes before and weren't taking chances. Each lawman emptied his weapon completely. When the shooting stopped, the Ford was demolished. Windows shattered, tires deflated, body panels perforated like Swiss cheese. The engine had taken multiple hits and was leaking oil and coolant. Investigators later counted 167 bullet holes in the car, though some rounds passed completely through, making exact counting difficult. The 12-second fusillade used ammunition worth approximately $15. Expensive in Depression-era terms, but cheap for ending America's most notorious crime spree. Number 18. Souvenir hunters mutilated the crime scene. Within minutes of the shooting, local residents arrived at the ambush site and began taking grotesque souvenirs. The lawmen were still securing the scene when civilians started appearing from nearby farms and homes. News of the ambush spread through rural Louisiana with shocking speed. People arrived on foot, horseback, and in cars, overwhelming the 6 officers trying to control the situation. The souvenir taking was disturbing and morbid. People cut pieces of Bonnie's dress with pocket knives, snipping fabric soaked in blood. They pulled hair from both bodies, yanked buttons off clothing, and even attempted to cut off Clyde's ear and trigger finger before being stopped. The car itself suffered extensive mutilation. Crowds smashed out remaining window glass to keep as mementos. They pried loose chrome trim, door handles, and any removable parts. Someone stole the entire rear license plate. Others scraped paint chips from bullet-damaged areas. One man attempted to drain the radiator fluid as a souvenir before being physically restrained. The steering wheel was nearly removed before officers intervened. The chaos lasted for hours because the 6 lawmen couldn't control hundreds of aggressive souvenir seekers. They eventually fired warning shots to push the crowd back. The undertaker who arrived to collect the bodies found his hearse surrounded by people trying to touch the corpses. Glass fragments from the shattered windows were gathered and later sold at local stores as authentic Bonnie and Clyde death car glass. Most of these were actually fragments from other broken bottles, but buyers didn't care about authenticity. The souvenir frenzy revealed the twisted celebrity status Bonnie and Clyde had achieved. Number 17. The car was displayed publicly within 5 days. The bullet-riddled Ford became a commercial attraction with shocking speed. Charles Stanley, a businessman from Shreveport, Louisiana, somehow acquired the car from authorities just days after the ambush. The exact transaction remains murky, with some historians suggesting bribes were involved. Stanley recognized the profit potential immediately. Americans were fascinated by the outlaw couple, and seeing their actual death car would draw paying crowds. On May 28, 1934, just 5 days after the ambush, Stanley displayed the car at the Louisiana State Fairgrounds in Shreveport. He charged 25 cents admission, a significant sum during the Depression when many workers earned less than $1 per day. Thousands attended, creating lines that wrapped around city blocks. The viewing experience was carefully staged for maximum impact. Stanley positioned the car at an angle, showing the driver's side damage most dramatically. Blood stains on the seats and interior were preserved and highlighted. Shattered glass remained on the floorboards. Bullet holes were marked with small flags indicating entry angles. Stanley hired a lecturer who stood beside the car, narrating the ambush story, embellishing details for dramatic effect. The lecturer claimed to be a witness, though he'd actually learned the story from newspapers. The display generated over $15,000 in its first month, an enormous sum in 1934. Stanley quickly organized a traveling exhibition, moving the car to county fairs, carnivals, and expositions throughout the South. The moral outrage was immediate. Church groups protested, calling the display ghoulish and disrespectful. Newspapers editorialized against profiting from murder, but the crowds kept coming, proving that morbid curiosity transcended social propriety. Number 16. The interior was never cleaned after the ambush. The Ford's interior remained in its post-ambush condition for decades, never cleaned or restored. Blood stains from Bonnie and Clyde covered the seats, headliner, and door panels. These stains darkened and oxidized over time, but were deliberately preserved as part of the car's macabre authenticity. Glass fragments from the shattered windows remained embedded in the upholstery. Spent shell casings that ricocheted inside the car during the ambush were left on the floor. Even personal items belonging to Bonnie and Clyde stayed in the vehicle for years. A lipstick tube, cigarette butts, a woman's hair clip, and loose change were found during later inventories. The blood-soaked seats were particularly disturbing. The fabric absorbed so much blood that it remained damp for days after the ambush. As it dried, the blood turned brown, then black, creating grotesque patterns across the tan upholstery. The smell was reportedly overwhelming during the first exhibitions, a mix of blood, gunpowder, and death that made viewers nauseous. Exhibition operators eventually had to ventilate the car between showings. The decision to preserve rather than clean the interior was purely commercial. Viewers wanted to see authentic evidence of the ambush's violence. A cleaned car would be just another old Ford. The bloodstains and damage proved this was the real death car, not a replica. Owners through the decades maintained this policy despite criticism from preservation experts, who argued the biological materials were degrading the car's fabric and metal. By the 1980s, the blood had so thoroughly permeated the seats that cleaning became impossible without destroying the original upholstery. The interior remains a time capsule of violence, frozen in its May 1934 condition. Number 15. The original engine was swapped immediately after recovery. The Ford's original flathead Vate engine was removed within days of the ambush and replaced with a different engine. Multiple bullets had struck the original engine block during the fusillade, cracking the casting and rendering it inoperable. Oil and coolant leaked from bullet holes in the block. The cylinder heads were damaged, and the oil pan was punctured in 3 places. The engine was seized within hours of the ambush, permanently frozen from internal damage. Authorities initially kept the original engine as criminal evidence. It had forensic value, showing bullet trajectories and helping reconstruct the ambush sequence. But when Charles Stanley acquired the car for exhibition, he needed it to be potentially drivable for transport between venues. He purchased a used 1934 Ford Flathead from a salvage yard and installed it in approximately the same condition as the original. This engine swap created a problem for authenticity. The replacement engine had different serial numbers that didn't match the car's documentation. Later owners discovered this discrepancy and questioned whether they had the genuine death car or a replica. The original bullet-damaged engine disappeared from evidence storage sometime in the 1950s. Its whereabouts remained unknown for decades. Then, in 1997, a Louisiana estate sale included a Ford Flathead engine block with multiple bullet holes. The seller claimed it came from his grandfather, who'd worked in the sheriff's department in 1934. Ballistics experts examined the damage and confirmed the bullet trajectories matched ambush documentation. The engine block sold at auction for $88,000, proving that even pieces of the death car held enormous value. The buyer never publicly revealed their identity, and the engine block's current location remains unknown. Number 14. The car's title changed hands 9 times in 20 years. The death car's ownership history, from 1934 to 1954, reads like a property speculation frenzy. Charles Stanley sold it in 1937 to a carnival operator named John Hollis for $4,000. Hollis toured it through the Midwest before selling it to Charles Smith in 1941 for $6,500. Smith displayed it at his crime museum in Cincinnati until financial problems forced him to sell in 1944. Each transaction increased the price as the car's legendary status grew. Ted Toddy, a traveling showman, bought it for $8,000 and took it on a national tour that included stops at state fairs in 38 states. Toddy sold it in 1947 to a Las Vegas casino owner who displayed it in his lobby. The casino owner held it briefly before selling to an amusement park in New Jersey. Each owner exploited the car's morbid appeal, using it to attract crowds to their businesses. The rapid ownership changes created documentation problems. By the 1950s, the car's title history was so convoluted that proving legitimate ownership became difficult. Some transactions were handshake deals with minimal paperwork. Others involved disputed claims and legal challenges. Ruth Warren, the original owner from whom Bonnie and Clyde stole the car, continued filing legal claims until her death. Her estate attempted to claim ownership based on the fact that the car was stolen property that should have been returned. Courts consistently ruled against her, establishing legal precedent that crime-related vehicles could be sold regardless of original ownership. The ownership carousel finally stopped in 1952 when a serious collector acquired it with plans for long-term preservation. Number 13. The windshield was replaced 3 times for display purposes. The Ford's windshield, which shattered during the ambush, was replaced multiple times by different owners, seeking to enhance the car's dramatic appearance. The original windshield was completely destroyed, with only fragments remaining in the frame. These fragments were collected as souvenirs by the crowd at the ambush site. The first replacement windshield was installed by Charles Stanley before the initial exhibition. He used a standard 1934 Ford windshield and had an artist carefully paint simulated bullet holes and cracks to approximate the damage pattern. This painted windshield looked convincing from a distance, but wouldn't withstand close inspection. By 1940, wear on the painted windshield made the deception obvious. The then current owner commissioned a glass artist to create a new windshield with actual bullet holes drilled through it. This craftsman carefully drilled 17 holes at angles matching ambush photographs, creating spiderweb crack patterns radiating from each hole. This windshield was more convincing but still wasn't authentic. In 1956, another replacement occurred. The owner acquired an actual windshield from a different 1934 Ford that had been shot during an unrelated crime. This windshield had genuine bullet damage, just not from the Bonnie and Clyde ambush. It was installed and presented as original, a deception that wasn't discovered until the 1980s when researchers compared ambush scene photographs with the displayed car. The bullet hole patterns didn't match. This revelation sparked debate about the car's authenticity. If the windshield was fake, what else had been replaced or modified? Current owners acknowledge the windshield isn't original, but argue it accurately represents the type of damage the original sustained, making it acceptable for historical display purposes. Number 12. Bonnie's blood type was identified from seat stains 40 years later. In 1973, forensic scientists were granted access to the death car for a criminal justice research project. They wanted to test whether modern forensic techniques could extract useful information from decades-old crime scene evidence. The blood-stained seats provided an unexpected opportunity. Using samples carefully extracted from the upholstery, technicians performed blood typing analysis. Despite the blood being 39 years old and severely degraded, they successfully identified two different blood types in the vehicle. Type O blood was concentrated on the driver's seat and door, consistent with Clyde Barrow's documented blood type from prison medical records. Type A blood saturated the passenger seat and right door panel, matching Bonnie Parker's blood type from hospital records following a previous injury. This analysis confirmed that the blood in the car genuinely came from the ambush, not from animal blood or theatrical props, as some skeptics had suggested. The forensic team also discovered something unexpected. A third blood type, type B, was present in small quantities on the rear seat. This blood couldn't have come from Bonnie or Clyde. Historical research revealed a possible explanation. After the ambush, one of the lawmen had injured his hand on broken glass while searching the vehicle and bled onto the rear seat before realizing his injury. This minor detail, forgotten for decades, was preserved in the biological evidence. The 1973 analysis proved the car's authenticity definitively. Skeptics who claimed the displayed vehicle was a replica or that the bloodstains were fabricated had to concede that genuine forensic evidence from the actual participants existed in the upholstery. The study became a landmark case in forensic science, demonstrating that biological evidence could survive for decades under proper conditions. Number 11. The stolen license plate was returned anonymously in 1987. In May 1987, exactly 53 years after the ambush, the car's current owner received a package with no return address. Inside was the original Louisiana license plate stolen from the death car by souvenir hunters in 1934. The plate showed its age, with rust, bullet damage, and bent corners. An anonymous letter accompanied it, written by someone claiming to be the daughter of the man who'd taken the plate from the ambush scene. The letter explained that her father, now deceased, had kept the plate hidden in his garage for 5 decades. On his deathbed, he'd expressed regret for taking it and made his daughter promise to return it to the car. The daughter waited several years after his death before honoring that promise, fearing potential legal consequences. The plate's return was significant because it was one of the few original components stolen that day to ever be recovered. Authentication proved challenging initially. The plate number matched historical photographs and police records. Bullet holes in the metal aligned with damage visible in ambush scene photos. Forensic metallurgists confirmed the rust patterns were consistent with Louisiana soil composition and 53 years of aging. The plate number, Louisiana 52703, was verified through 1934 DMV records as being registered to Ruth Warren of Topeka, Kansas, the car's original owner. The plate's return sparked interest in other missing components. The car's owner launched a public appeal for anyone possessing stolen pieces to return them without fear of prosecution. A few items trickled in over subsequent years, including fragments of chrome trim, pieces of window glass, and even a section of the seat fabric cut away by souvenir hunters. Each returned piece added to the car's completeness and historical authenticity. Number 10. The headliner contained Bonnie's hidden love letters. During the 1962 restoration assessment, workers discovered letters hidden between the car's fabric headliner and roof panel. These handwritten notes were love letters from Bonnie Parker to Clyde Barrow, never mailed but kept as keepsakes. The letters had been stuffed into the gap during one of their many hurried escapes, forgotten until discovered 28 years later. The pages were stained with blood and water damage, making portions illegible. Forensic document examiners authenticated Bonnie's handwriting by comparing it to known samples from her poetry notebooks. The letters revealed intimate details about their relationship, contradicting the romanticized public image. Bonnie expressed frustration with life on the run, fear of capture, and resignation about their inevitable, violent end. One letter mentioned wanting children and a normal life. sentiments that humanize the notorious criminal. The discovery created ethical debates about whether such personal correspondence should be publicly displayed or kept private. The car's owner initially planned to auction the letters separately, but faced backlash from historians who argued they were integral to the car's provenance. Eventually, the letters were donated to a crime history museum, where they're displayed alongside the vehicle. The headliner hiding place suggested Bonnie and Clyde used the car's interior for storing important items, leading to speculation about what other artifacts might still be hidden within the vehicle's structure. Later inspections found nothing additional, but the possibility remains. Number 9. The car was banned from exhibition in 6 states. Between 1935 and 1952, 6 states passed legislation specifically banning the death car's exhibition within their borders. Texas led this movement in 1935, declaring that displaying vehicles used in violent crimes constituted public indecency. Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas, and Iowa followed with similar laws. These bans were driven by moral outrage from religious groups and families of Bonnie and Clyde's victims. Churches organized petition drives, collecting thousands of signatures demanding the exhibition stop. Lawmakers responded to constituent pressure, despite questions about constitutional free speech protections. The bans created significant financial problems for owners who'd planned tour routes through these states. They had to completely avoid entire regions, limiting their potential audience and revenue. Some owners attempted to challenge the bans in court, arguing they violated interstate commerce and free expression rights. Courts generally sided with the states, ruling that public morality concerns outweighed commercial interests. Clever operators found loopholes. In Texas, one owner displayed the car on a flatbed truck parked on the Louisiana side of the state border, advertising to Texas residents who could walk across to view it. Another exhibited it at a county fair, technically located on Native American reservation land, not subject to state jurisdiction. By the 1960s, most bans had been quietly repealed or stopped being enforced as public attitudes shifted. The car became viewed more as historical artifact than exploitation of tragedy. Modern exhibitions face no such restrictions. Number 8. The actual bullet count was never definitively established. The commonly cited figure of 167 bullet holes in the death car is likely inaccurate. This number originated from a journalist's count at the ambush scene, conducted while chaos reigned and accuracy was impossible. Later examinations revealed significant discrepancies. Many bullets passed completely through the car, entering one side and exiting the other, creating 2 holes but representing single shots. Other bullets fragmented upon impact, with pieces creating multiple small holes that were counted as separate strikes. Some apparent bullet holes were actually damage from souvenir hunters or deterioration over decades. In 1973, a ballistics expert attempted a comprehensive recount. He identified approximately 130 confirmed bullet strikes based on entry hole characteristics, trajectory patterns, and corresponding exit damage. However, his count excluded questionable marks he couldn't definitively attribute to the ambush. Another examination in 1995, using modern forensic techniques, suggested the count might be as low as 112 separate bullet strikes. The discrepancy matters because it affects understanding of the ambush's violence. 112 shots in 12 seconds is still devastating, but different from 167. The lawmen's own accounts are unhelpful, as most admitted emptying their weapons without counting shots. Spent shell casings collected at the scene totaled 153, but this count is also disputed because civilians may have taken casings as souvenirs. The true bullet count will likely never be known with certainty, becoming one of the death car's enduring mysteries. Number 7. The backseat contained a stolen arsenal. When authorities searched the car after the ambush, they discovered an astounding weapons cache in the back seat and trunk. The inventory included 3 Browning automatic rifles, 2 sawed-off shotguns, 9 automatic pistols, over 1,500 rounds of ammunition, and numerous loaded magazines. Additionally, they found bulletproof vests for both Bonnie and Clyde, neither of which they'd been wearing during the ambush. The weapons represented thousands of dollars worth of military-grade firepower, much of it stolen from National Guard armories during previous crimes. The bars were particularly significant, as they were restricted military weapons not available to civilians. Clyde had modified 2 of them by sawing off the barrels and adding custom grips, making them easier to fire from moving vehicles. These modifications demonstrated Clyde's mechanical aptitude and understanding of firearms. The back seat also contained burglar tools, several license plates from different states, rope, chains, and materials for constructing improvised explosive devices. Maps of Texas and Oklahoma were marked with potential bank targets and escape routes. The arsenal's presence explained why lawmen used such overwhelming force during the ambush. They knew Bonnie and Clyde were heavily armed and wouldn't surrender peacefully. The weapons were cataloged as evidence and later distributed among the participating lawmen as unofficial compensation for their dangerous work. Several of these guns have since appeared at auctions, selling for substantial sums. One bar from the car sold in 2012 for $95,000, proving that artifacts associated with notorious criminals retain enduring value. Number 6. The tires were filled with sawdust for puncture resistance. Examination of the death car revealed that all 4 tires were filled with sawdust in addition to air. This was Clyde Barrow's innovation to prevent flat tires during police chases and shootouts. He'd learned from earlier pursuits that blown tires were often what ended getaways successfully. The sawdust filling meant that even if a tire was punctured by bullets or road debris, it would maintain some structural integrity rather than deflating completely. Clyde would drain most of the air from each tire, pack it densely with fine sawdust, then reinflate to about half normal pressure. This combination created a tire that could absorb bullet impacts and continue rolling even when severely damaged. The technique worked remarkably well during the ambush. Despite multiple tire hits during the fusillade, the Ford didn't completely lose mobility. It rolled into the ditch partially under its own power, rather than grinding to an immediate halt on bare rims. Later testing by automotive researchers confirmed the sawdust method's effectiveness. Tires filled this way could sustain several bullet holes and still support a vehicle's weight for limited distances. The innovation impressed even the lawmen who'd hunted Bonnie and Clyde. Frank Hamer later mentioned the sawdust tires in interviews as evidence of Clyde's mechanical ingenuity. Modern run-flat tire technology uses similar principles, with internal supports preventing complete collapse when punctured. Clyde essentially invented a crude version of run-flat tires decades before automotive manufacturers developed them commercially. The sawdust remained in the tires for years after the ambush, eventually hardening into cement-like chunks before being removed during restoration attempts. Number 5. The original tan paint hid multiple respray layers. When conservation experts examined the death car's paint in the 1990s, they discovered it had been repainted at least 4 times before the ambush. Core samples taken from non-critical areas revealed layers of different colors beneath the tan exterior. The car's original factory color was Cordoba gray, a popular Ford color in 1934. Beneath the tan paint were layers of green, blue, and black, each representing a different repaint job. This discovery confirmed that Bonnie and Clyde frequently changed the car's appearance to evade detection. Each respray would have taken several hours and required stopping somewhere safe with paint supplies. The multiple paint layers suggested they had accomplices with access to automotive paint and spray equipment, possibly corrupt garage owners who helped for payment. The tan color visible during the ambush was likely the most recent application, possibly done just days before, in an attempt to make the distinctive Ford less recognizable. Paint analysis revealed that none of the applications used professional automotive paint. Instead, they were cheaper house paints and agricultural equipment coatings applied with brushes and crude spray rigs. This explained why the paint finish photographed so poorly in ambush scene photos, appearing mottled and uneven. The multiple paint layers actually helped preserve the underlying metal from rust over decades. The thick coating protected bullet-damaged areas from corrosion better than a single paint layer would have. Modern owners face dilemmas about preservation. Removing later paint to reveal original factory color would destroy historical evidence of Bonnie and Clyde's evasion tactics. Number 4. The car's current value exceeds $2 million. The death car's most recent insurance appraisal in 2020 valued it at $2.2 million, making it one of the most valuable Ford automobiles in existence. This valuation considers both the car's historical significance and its unique, preserved condition. Comparable crime-related vehicles have sold for substantial sums at auction. John Dillinger's death car sold for $165,000 in 1999. Al Capone's armored Cadillac brought $341,000 in 2012. But Bonnie and Clyde's death car exceeds these values because of its superior documentation, more dramatic history, and better preservation. The car generates significant revenue for its current owner through exhibition fees, lending fees to museums, and appearance fees at automotive events. Annual income from the car reportedly exceeds $100,000, making it a profitable historical asset. Insurance costs are correspondingly high, with annual premiums exceeding $25,000 to cover theft, damage, and liability. The car requires specialized climate-controlled storage when not on display, with security systems including motion detectors, cameras, and armed response services. Transportation between exhibition venues requires custom-built enclosed trailers and professional handlers familiar with historic vehicle transport. The valuation has created ownership transfer problems. The current owner acquired it in 1973 for $40,000, realizing enormous appreciation. Estate planning for such a valuable but unusual asset presents challenges because few buyers could afford or insure it properly. Major museums have expressed interest in acquisition, but negotiations stall over price disagreements and exhibition rights. The death car's value will likely continue appreciating as time distances it further from the actual events. Number 3. Clyde's blood-soaked boot print remained on the brake pedal. One of the most disturbing preserved details in the death car is Clyde Barrow's boot print, permanently stained onto the brake pedal in his blood. When Clyde was shot in the head, his foot remained pressed on the accelerator, but blood from his wounds ran down his leg and into his boot. As the car coasted into the ditch, his foot apparently moved to the brake pedal, leaving a detailed impression. The boot print remained visible for decades, preserved by the dried blood's adhesion to the metal pedal surface. Forensic examination confirmed the print matched size 9 boots, consistent with Clyde's documented shoe size from prison records. The tread pattern matched boots manufactured by Red Wing, a brand Clyde was known to prefer based on boots recovered from previous hideouts. The print's preservation resulted from the blood's iron content essentially rusting onto the steel pedal, creating a permanent stain that couldn't be removed without damaging the metal. Conservation experts debated whether to preserve or remove the boot print during restoration discussions. Preservation advocates argued it was crucial forensic evidence and historical documentation. Removal advocates found it ghoulishly inappropriate to display. The preservation faction prevailed, and the boot print remains visible. Viewers' reactions vary from fascination to revulsion. Some see it as a haunting reminder of the ambush's human cost. Others find it exploitative and disrespectful. The boot print has been photographed extensively for forensic textbooks, as an example of how biological evidence can preserve crime scene details. It represents one of the most direct physical connections to the actual moment of death. Number 2. The car was nearly destroyed in a warehouse fire. In March 1978, the death car nearly became a pile of melted metal when the warehouse storing it caught fire. The building in Primm, Nevada, was being used for long-term storage of the car and other historical exhibits. An electrical malfunction in the building's outdated wiring system started a fire around 2 a.m. The fire spread rapidly through the wooden structure, filled with flammable display materials. By the time firefighters arrived, flames had consumed over half the warehouse. The death car was located in the building's rear section, not yet reached by flames, but filling with thick smoke. Firefighters wearing breathing apparatus entered the burning structure specifically to save the car after the owner frantically explained its historical value. 2 firefighters hooked chains to the Ford's frame, and a tow truck pulled it from the warehouse just 15 minutes before that section collapsed in flames. The car suffered smoke damage and some heat warping to the hood and roof panels from radiant heat, but survived essentially intact. The close call prompted immediate changes to how the car was stored. The owner invested in a modern, fireproof storage facility with sprinkler systems, fire-resistant construction, and 24-hour monitoring. Insurance requirements also changed, mandating specific storage conditions and fire suppression systems. The warehouse fire destroyed numerous other historical items stored alongside the death car, including period weapons, photographs, and documents related to Bonnie and Clyde. These irreplaceable artifacts were lost forever, emphasizing how fortunate the car's survival was. The incident highlighted the fragility of historical preservation and how easily iconic artifacts can be destroyed. Number 1. The car's final resting place is a casino. The Death Car's permanent home since 1988 has been Whiskey Pete's Hotel and Casino in Primm, Nevada, an unlikely final destination for such a significant historical artifact. The casino's owner purchased the car for $250,000 as a tourist attraction to draw visitors to his remote location on Interstate 15 between Los Angeles and Las Vegas. The car is displayed in a climate-controlled glass enclosure in the casino's lobby, surrounded by slot machines and gaming tables. This juxtaposition of serious history with gambling entertainment strikes many as inappropriate, but it ensures millions of visitors see the car annually. The casino charges no separate admission, making it one of the most accessible famous vehicles in America. Anyone can walk in and view it for free, though the casino naturally hopes they'll gamble afterward. The display includes extensive informational panels, explaining Bonnie and Clyde's crime spree, the ambush details, and the car's subsequent history. Accompanying exhibits show period weapons, photographs, and artifacts. The casino setting has sparked ongoing debates about whether the Death Car belongs in a museum rather than a commercial entertainment venue. Historians argue it deserves more dignified presentation in an educational institution. The owner counters that the casino location provides greater public access than any museum could offer, with extended hours and no admission fees. The car generates substantial foot traffic for the casino, with many visitors making special trips specifically to see it. The arrangement seems permanent, as the current owner has rejected multiple purchase offers from museums and collectors. The Death Car's casino home ensures Bonnie and Clyde's legend continues attracting crowds, nearly 90 years after their violent end. Bonnie and Clyde's Death Car proved that history's most tragic moments can become America's most enduring attractions. From stolen property to $2 million artifact, this bullet-riddled Ford survived souvenir hunters, fires, and decades of exploitation. The car didn't just witness history, it became history itself, forever frozen in that violent Louisiana morning.